I'm Alex, and today my routine grocery run turned into something that felt ripped straight from a reality show, minus the $1 million prize, thankfully. Instead of risking life and limb, it was more like risking dignity or suffering total public humiliation. It was strange, occasionally hilarious, and absolutely not part of my Saturday plans. You'll see what I mean in a second. One bright Saturday, I pulled into the parking lot of Cedar Grove Market to restock my fridge. That's when she appeared, like some undercover agent on a mission only she knew about. "Hey, stranger. I need your help," she said, appearing beside my car like she'd been lurking in the shadows. I honestly had no idea who she was talking to. Nobody had ever called me stranger with such audacious charm before. I looked around, baffled. "Me?" She rolled her eyes like a pro. "Unless there's someone else standing here." "No, I mean that squirrel over there. Yeah, the one looking way too judgmental." She gestured vaguely toward a patch of grass. I couldn't help but grin. This girl had attitude. "Look," she continued, glancing nervously at her phone. "My ex just walked into the store with his new girlfriend, and I need you to pretend to be my boyfriend for like 10 minutes. Please." Normally, I don't get involved in random schemes, but curiosity got the better of me. And honestly, she was kind of convincing in her blue tank top, ripped denim shorts, and sneakers, her mischievous smile daring me to say no. "What does pretending involve exactly?" I asked, already suspecting regret was imminent. "Nothing wild. Just hold my hand, laugh at my jokes, maybe compliment my produce selection skills." I raised an eyebrow. "Produce selection skills? Trust me," she said, already striding toward the entrance. "Oh, and act like you're totally into me. Shouldn't be hard, right?" Her confidence was unreal. "I don't even know your name," I called after her. "Details, schmetails. We'll figure it out as we go. You coming or not?" Against all better judgment and common sense, I followed her into the store. My Saturday had been looking pretty dull anyway. The automatic doors slid open and she grabbed my arm, scanning the aisles like a hawk. Cedar Grove Market was packed with weekend shoppers, the usual symphony of squeaky carts, whining kids, and chatter. "There, produce section," she whispered, nodding toward a couple by the bananas. Blonde girl, guy in a blue hoodie. I spotted them, a tall, decent-looking guy with his arm around a petite blonde, scrutinizing fruit like she was about to write a dissertation on it. "What's the plan?" I whispered back. She grinned, wickedly. "Follow my lead, boyfriend." We strolled casually to the vegetable section, ducking behind displays of tomatoes, lettuce, and cucumbers, positioning ourselves for prime observation. That's when things got absurd. She grabbed 2 cucumbers, one much larger than the other, and started wielding them like swords right in front of me, laughing loud enough to turn a few heads. "Which one do you like better, babe?" she asked, waving the big cucumber around dramatically. "I'm thinking this one suits me." I froze. I had never experienced anything like this before. She winked, stepped on my foot with her sneaker, clearly telling me to play along. Whichever one you like," I managed sheepishly. "Oh, this one's perfect," she declared, still swinging her cucumber sword like a champion. "Bag it, honey." I fumbled with a plastic bag as she dropped her choice inside. "I'll grab 2 more," she added, keeping a straight face. Before I could recover, we were moving toward the oranges. She picked up 2 giant ones, holding them like prize trophies. "How do these look to you?" she asked, feigning innocence. I glanced over and saw her ex and his girlfriend peering at us from across the display, mouths practically hanging open. The girlfriend looked especially flustered, and I had a sneaking suspicion the orange comparison wasn't really about the fruit. "Watch this," my temporary girlfriend announced, and then started juggling the oranges. That's when chaos struck. One orange went rogue, bouncing off the display and smacking me square in the shin. Pain shot on my leg like a lightning bolt. I crouched down, trying to act cool while secretly wincing. After a few deep breaths, I popped back up over the display with the widest grin I could muster. "Got them, sweetheart," I said, holding up the fallen oranges. "Careful, these big ones pack a punch." She looked genuinely impressed, then shrugged and rolled with it. "Oh, baby, you didn't hurt yourself, did you? I'll give you a massage when we get home." That seemed to do it. Her ex grabbed his girlfriend's hand and practically dragged her toward the checkout, both of them looking like they'd just witnessed something inexplicable. Mission accomplished, apparently. Okay, they're gone, I said, watching her ex disappear around the corner toward the registers. You can stop the performance now. She was still tossing an orange up and catching it with one hand. Are you always this energetic? I asked. Her face softened for the first time since this whole thing started, almost vulnerable. Sometimes I'm more like a sparkler, I guess. I laughed. Sparklers have names, right? Because apparently, I now had a girlfriend who turned oversized vegetables into entertainment, and I didn't even know her name. That broke her composure completely. She started laughing so hard other shoppers turned to stare, which only made her laugh harder. I'm Mia, she gasped between giggles. Mia, and you're Alex? I replied, grinning at her contagious laughter. Her expression suddenly grew serious. I'm really sorry for dragging you into my drama. That was probably weird and uncomfortable, and you were just trying to buy groceries like a normal person. Weird? Absolutely. Uncomfortable? Definitely. But kind of fun, too. I hadn't done anything that's spontaneous in, well, maybe ever. Her smile changed then, softer and warmer than her mischievous earlier grin. I want to make it up to you. Are you free tonight around 6? She pulled out her phone and rattled off an address. I'll cook dinner. It's the least I can do after making you my accomplice in whatever that was. We finished our shopping in a comfortable silence, occasionally breaking in a laughter as we replayed the cucumber incident. Her cart was full of real ingredients, fresh herbs, vegetables, maybe even stuff for homemade pasta. Mine? The usual bachelor haul, frozen dinners, cereal, and enough energy drinks to power a small jet. You actually cook? I asked as we headed to checkout. Don't sound so surprised. I contain multitudes, she said, mock offended. Outside, I offered her a ride. Her place was only a few blocks away. A small apartment building with flower boxes and enough charm to suggest someone cared about where they lived. See you at 6, she said, climbing out with her groceries. Wouldn't miss it, I replied. Surprisingly, I meant it. The rest of the afternoon dragged by as I replayed the whole supermarket fiasco. Every time I reached the part where she started juggling oranges, I laughed all over again. By 5:45, I was standing in front of my closet, wondering what exactly one wears to dinner with a woman who weaponizes produce. I settled on jeans and a button-down, casual, but like I'd made an effort. At exactly 6, I knocked on her door. It swung open, and I immediately burst out laughing. Oh my gosh, what is that? I blurted. She was wearing what could only be described as a full-body raccoon onesie, complete with a fluffy, striped tail and tiny ears on the hood. Don't ask, she said, trying to maintain dignity while dressed like a woodland bandit. I didn't have time to change. Come in, come in. Her apartment smelled incredible. Something with garlic, fresh herbs, and bread baking in the oven. She gestured toward the kitchen. Make yourself comfortable. I'll be right back. I wandered into her kitchen, small but perfectly organized, clearly belonging to someone who knew their way around food. Fresh basil grew in little pots on the windowsill, and something was bubbling gently on the stove. A few minutes later, she reappeared. The transformation was complete. She'd changed into a soft, floral summer dress that made her look completely different from both the mischievous cucumber warrior and the ridiculous raccoon creature. Her hair fell loosely around her shoulders, and she moved through the kitchen with easy confidence. Better? She asked, catching me staring. Much better, I admitted. Though, I have to say, the raccoon thing was unforgettable. She laughed, stirring something that smelled like heaven. My roommate bought that for me after a rough breakup, she explained. So it would make me laugh instead of cry. Did it work? Well, I'm not crying, so I guess yes, I said, grinning. She handed me a glass of wine. Dinner's almost ready. Hope you like homemade pasta. You made pasta from scratch? I told you I contain multitudes, she said with mock pride. We sat down to a meal that might have been the best I'd had in months. The pasta was perfectly al dente, the sauce rich and flavorful, and conversation flowed as easily as the wine. So, I said, twirling another forkful, do you often recruit random strangers for elaborate revenge schemes? She nearly choked on her wine. God, no. That was a one-time thing. Usually, I'm boring. I promise. I find that hard to believe. Okay, fine, she said, leaning back with a mischievous grin. There was this one time in college when my roommate dared me to pretend I was a food blogger at a fancy restaurant. I got the waiter convinced I was reviewing them for a major publication, scored free dessert, and they never caught on. Well, I may have gotten carried away describing the wine. Apparently, describing the house red as strongly reminiscent of a Tuesday afternoon in suburban Vermont was a dead giveaway that I had no idea what I was talking about. I laughed so hard I could barely breathe. Okay, you win. But I once convinced an entire office building that I was the fire marshal because I wore a reflective vest at a construction site and got lost. How do you accidentally impersonate a fire marshal? Very carefully, with a lot of confident nodding. I ended up inspecting 3 floors before someone asked to see my credentials. I told them I left them in my other vest and excused myself to the bathroom, then basically ran out of the building. She wiped tears from her eyes, laughing. Oh my gosh, that's terrible and amazing. Mortifying. But honestly, today's supermarket adventure might actually top it. I've never been someone's fake boyfriend before, especially not with strong opinions about cucumber sizes. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, both of us processing how weird and wonderful the day had been. Can I ask you something? I said. Why did you pick me? You could have found someone else in the supermarket. She thought for a moment. Honestly, you look like someone who might say yes to a crazy request without immediately calling security. Plus, you have kind eyes, and you were wearing that shirt. I looked down at my plain blue t-shirt. What's wrong with my shirt? Nothing, she said, smiling. It's just the same color as my ex's shirt. I figured it would mess with his head. So, you were chosen for your shirt, your willingness to go along with crazy schemes, and, of course, your devastatingly good looks. Obviously, we finished dinner talking about everything and nothing. Our jobs, she was a graphic designer, I worked in marketing, our families, our complete inability to keep plants alive. It was easy, comfortable, like talking to someone I'd known for years instead of just a few hours. As we cleared the dishes, she said, tomorrow, Sunday, I was thinking of going for a walk in Riverside Park, maybe grabbing coffee. Want to come? You know, as non-fake people this time. Are you asking me on a real date? I asked. Well, technically our first date was in a supermarket produce aisle, she said with a grin. So, the bar is pretty low. True, I admitted, but I should warn you, on real dates, I'm much more boring. No vegetable theater, no emergency boyfriend situations. Damn, she said, mock disappointed. And here I was hoping you'd bring props. I grabbed my jacket from the back of the chair, suddenly not wanting the evening to end. Pick you up at 10 o'clock? I asked. Perfect. And take care, she added. She walked me to the door, and just as I was about to leave, she stood on her tiptoes and pressed a soft, friendly kiss to my cheek. Thanks again for today, she said warmly. Thanks for the best Saturday I've had in a long time, even if my shin still hurt from your juggling skills, I said. She laughed, and I realized I was already looking forward to hearing that sound again tomorrow. Walking to my car, I couldn't help but smile. 24 hours ago, if someone had told me I'd end the weekend with a date planned with a woman I met while pretending to be her boyfriend in a supermarket, I would have thought they were insane. But sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected places, even if those places involve oversized cucumbers and raccoon costumes. I was definitely looking forward to Sunday in the park and to discovering what other surprises Mia might have in store. Something told me life with her would never be boring. And honestly, after years of predictable routine, a little chaos sounded pretty perfect.